Well, I was a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, not at
You were
all.
saying? Oh, okay. Thank you. Good morning to those out on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those on the East Coast of the United States, and a pleasant day or evening to wherever you are listening. And we'll read eventually about this interview. I am Ηρακλής Diamataris, the co-editor and publisher of the National Herald, Ethnikos Kirikas, and I am here with the esteemed George Marcus, who really needs no introductions for loyal readers of the National Herald and for members of our communities, but I'll take a stab at it anyway. Um, Very well known in real estate circles, Mr. Marcus is founder and chairman of Marcus and Millichap. Many of us of the National Herald maybe rent or have bought apartments, and founder and chairman of Essex Property Trust. The list goes on and on of the multiple, countless contributions of Mr. Marcus to the community and to the Greek Orthodox Church, both in the United States and abroad. I will be as brief as I can, though the list can go on for a while. He is that generous with his time and support. Mr. Marcus's philanthropic works include support, but not limited to, support for the Patriarch Athanagoras Orthodox Institute, the Metropolis, the Metropolis of San Francisco, the IOCC, which is the International Orthodox Christian Charities. He's on the Leadership 100, the Elio Society, and he is a founding member of the National Hellenic Society, which he remains the chairman emeritus. Um, we are so proud of Mr. Marcus and all of the work that he's done. He is a fully invested archon since 1991, and we know that he is not even close to being through with all of the wonderful work that he's doing, and we couldn't commend him more for that. But today, we have the pleasure of speaking with the man himself about a project that is near and dear to his heart, something that occurred just a few weeks ago. Mr. Marcus, thank you for your time and thank you for your contributions to the community, both in America, the Greek diaspora around the world, keeping us connected, which is something that the National Herald knows a thing or two about, and your support of the faith at large. And thank you for your time, of course. So we just wanted to talk to you today, Mr. Marcus, about something that occurred at the Ecumenical Patriarchate just a few weeks ago. And just to give our readers a background who maybe have not seen the story yet in our newspaper, there was a historic cathedral that had quarters that were heavily damaged in a 1978 fire in Constantinople. And thanks to Mr. Marcus's generosity, the cathedral has been restored and received the appropriate thanks from His All Holiness the Ecumenical Patriarch himself and high up clergy the world over. So, Mr. Marcus, again, thank you for your time, and I just want to give you the opportunity to tell our readers what this project was and why you decided to do it.
Quite frankly, first let me thank you. I think your organization is wonderful and important to maintain our relationships among the Greek Americans abroad. So that's a very, very important responsibility that your company has. And from my standpoint, I've visited the FNAR periodically over the years, and my most recent one, don't hold me to this exactly, it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that, with a group of friends of mine, and we were able to get an opportunity to meet with the wonderful person that leads our church, and it's remarkable. And so in that discussion with the wonderful person that we love so much, he indicated this issue that they had this fire and this thing was really not doing well. And I thought I would do something to help him And at that time, I made a commitment to half the amount to basically rebuild this building. It really had to be rebuilt. So the discussion went on, and he was very excited. And then we left and came back to the United States. Meanwhile, Metropolitan Yerasimos was aware of this, and he is our leader here in the West. And he's a remarkable person, and I just love him dearly. And over a period of time, he said, with a little more money, we could actually handle this entire building and rebuild it. And the patriarch would be beyond excited to do that. And I thought, yes. And then they told me what the number was. It was a little more than I thought at the time. So it ended up being about $1 million overall. I've been very fortunate as a businessman in the real estate world that I have been successful. But I don't just toss around $1 million here and there. And I agreed with the Metropolitan, and we delivered the money, and they began the process. And it led to this last couple of weeks ago meeting, which I was supposed to attend, but unfortunately my wife was not well and I could not attend. So I was very, very excited to be invited and be the center of the invitement, because it allowed them to rebuild the very, very important structure. And so I feel great about it. And I know the Metropolitan was really acting in my behalf. So he accepted a couple of many things that the patriarch was giving him to give to me ultimately. So I'm very excited. I feel very good. And I love our religion. My mother was wonderful about that. She did force me to go to church every Sunday for 2.5 hours. And I overcome it, but it's okay. It's my joke. It's an American joke. Okay. So, no, it was a wonderful experience, wonderful experience. So I met many wonderful friends that I've kept throughout my life at the church. So wonderful.
Well, we certainly hope that your wife is doing a lot better. And thank you for giving an overview of what kind of important work was done, albeit the price tag being what it was. Certainly, you can't put a price on good deed. That was a remarkable show of generosity. And so, Mr. Marcus, in that vein, with the importance of the ecumenical patriarchate, we've seen over the last few years, well, not few years, let's call it decades, that there has been a systematic approach of, it almost feels like the walls are sort of closing in around the ecumenical patriarchate. It's a fascinating predicament that we find ourselves in, because the world's Greek Orthodox community and the Orthodox Christians at large around the world, the seat of their faith is in a country that is not necessarily that receptive, shall we put it politely, to the faith itself. It seems it's not in some secure environment. There are certain pressures that are at play that the ecumenical patriarch, who, as you said, is a remarkable person, he has to balance being the head of our faith while maintaining a very almost diplomatic line with a host nation in a way that other heads of faith perhaps do not. What sort of message does restoring such a historic cathedral and the Maraslion school nearby send to not just the ecumenical patriarch and the folks at the Fanar, but members of our faith abroad who maybe have never visited? What is the significance of caring enough to fight for these artifacts of our faith?
Well, quite frankly, it's no different than many of the faiths throughout the world. They have to really stand up and speak and work for the leadership. I mean, the reality is that there are a variety of different, as you know, religions, and they have people that care very much. And if we don't have people that care and do things to make sure that the leader of the organization that we call Orthodoxy, has, and he has, you know, he has Russia, he has the Ukraine, he has half the countries in Europe are of Orthodox tradition. So I think it is extremely important that we work with him, for him, and make sure that he is in a position that to be able to reach out to the needs that he has, and that we put our mind and our heart, and in some cases our finance, there to support him.
Yeah, that is what a lot of people don't understand. Just because the Orthodox faith may not be as large as the Catholic faith per se, that doesn't make the stuff that we have any less significant. This is our heritage. This is our history, and it's so important to preserve this. Otherwise, I think it's fair to say that we lose a piece of ourselves in the process. Mr. Marcus, obviously these two properties, which are very close to one another in Constantinople, they are but two examples of restorative work to priceless points of reference for our faith. As we understand, there are other properties, many properties, that are under the eye of the ecumenical patriarchate, that need to be brought up to modern day building codes, something that you know extensively about from your work here in the United States and elsewhere. And what's interesting about the need for these structures that are oftentimes, for example, in the instance of this church, you're talking about a structure that's from the 1500s. These are very, very old structures that will fall apart if not taken care of. These structures need to be brought up to modern day building codes, yet they're denied licenses. There are very good, well-meaning people such as yourself, and not just you, who are willing and thankfully able to do something about these things. But without the appropriate licenses, it doesn't matter how much goodwill there is, it's just not possible. What do you think is behind maybe these license denials?
You know, it's not really clear to me because I've not studied it. It doesn't make sense, no matter what philosophy a country has, that they wouldn't want their facilities to be brought up to be safe. And so people will not be injured if they're in there, or whatever it is, to really make sure that the structure maintains its purpose. So it's not really clear to me, and I didn't think there was much of a let's say political situation that wouldn't allow this to happen. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all, because there's nothing risky about it for the country that it's in. So it doesn't make sense to me, but I'm sure that exists, and I think we have to be, as Americans, we have to have some influence in our political world, and to see if they can't make it softer and easier, because Greece would have a more difficult time, but I think they can try as well. And we can have other countries, you know, especially countries like Russia, that are Orthodox. And people forget that. They should not. It's the largest country in the world that's Orthodox. And they work together. Sometimes they don't agree all the time, but they work together. So I think that we should have a more organized way of dealing with the particular political system that is stopping or making it difficult to really improve the conditions of the Fanar.
Right. And as somebody who is so connected to the Fanar, you know, an archon, like we said earlier, since 1991, and just countless instances of assisting the ecumenical patriarch in, you know, missions of the Fanar, but also, you know, you're talking about the St. Nicholas shrine at 9/11, which is timely. We have the commemoration and the Black anniversary tomorrow. You know, you're talking about all these other contributions to the church at large. The way that you see it for the faith, well, in the United States, let's go to the United States. Is there something that we can do here that, in the vein of your generosity with helping to restore these unbelievable sites for us in Constantinople, and as we just outlined, there are other properties that need to be brought up, and hopefully the licensing and the legal and the political footballing ceases with some of that. It comes to mind the Halkis school. I Is there a way for us to engage the youth in a better way? I know that you're, a co-founder of the National Hellenic Society and other such organizations that strives to bring us together. What can we do as the Greek Orthodox Church in America? Because you and I are both in America, so I'll speak to this continent. What can we do to bring the youth to, not necessarily to church every Sunday? Nobody's expecting that, but to bring them closer to the faith, to have it a little bit more part of their lives, so that in 100 years' time, if another property is to be on the brink of demise, that there are people who care, that they're willing to do something about it, that feel it inside of them.
You're aware of IOCC, which is a organization made up of the broad base of Orthodox. So it's all the Orthodox in America. We work together. I was on that board for a very long period of time. There's a good example of how they decided that they had to have a purpose, like a Red Cross or like any other organization that is trying to help people that are in need. So whether it's, Ethiopia that's having a serious problem, IOCC goes in there. We can also take that and make not the IOCC, but have a religious form of IOCC among all of the Orthodox together, because it applies to all Orthodox, not just the Greek Orthodox. It applies to all Orthodox. And so we can basically get some sort of an organization, name it, and get people to sign up for them, and the leaders of let's say in the United States, of the various Orthodox, that will really help, not necessarily economically all the time, but in some political way, to work with the states, our state of the United States, which has influence over a lot of, all the countries in the world, quite frankly. And so I think something could be done, but it would take a half a dozen serious people, if a dozen, not a dozen people, that would say, this is something that's very important. We want to do it. It's not going to cost you a lot of money, but we're going to work together to try to get our country and other countries to work together, because there are, Russians, again, that would probably speak up and say, yes, we need to have a free leader of our country. If they did this to the Pope, the people would go, the Catholics would go crazy. They go crazy. And so we should be in that, not exactly like that, but we should have a feeling that we can work together and bring more flexibility, let's call it that, to where the Fanar is and what our leader needs.
Yeah. Despite this gift that was made to the Fanar, which is, again, just super. In your mind, is there cause for concern regarding the Fanar? Are you worried about its future?
Not really. No, I'm not. I mean, there's nothing that has given me information-wise. Essentially, it is a benefit to the country that it's in, because it provides economic. I mean, you're aware of that, but there's a lot of people who go there. They spend a lot of money in the country, and so it's a very, very important thing to maintain and to keep very much a part of what they're doing. So I'm not concerned about that. No.
Okay, and there's nothing on the surface level giving you pause at the Fanar level. Is there anything in the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America that maybe gives you pause? Is there something that you would like to see that can bring us closer, maybe again, we talked about the youth before. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, as I mentioned, you know, again, I'm in the real estate world, and I spend my time doing the things that I have my family, I have my business, I have my church, I have all of these things. What we need is the metropolitans and the head of the Orthodox Church in America to work with the heads of other Orthodox churches in America and sit down and say, let's organize a committee or a organization of some kind and call upon the, let's say successful people in our whether they're Russian or whether they're Ukrainian or whether they're Romanian, whatever they are, to do something that really will give the FNAR more opportunity to revise itself, update itself, be part of a Vatican. Vatican has its own country. And they did it intentionally. And if you've been there lately, it's really pretty amazing. It's really amazing. It's really amazing. So I think we could do it with the leadership of our church.
Yeah. The Vatican, I mean, as you said, it is in name and practice its own separate country and entity. It is breathtaking, and what you're talking about is not unprecedented even within Greece's borders. Frankly, you have Mount Athos, which is its own semi-autonomous state. So even something to that degree might be beneficial to the sustained development and survival, really, of the FUNAR, which, I mean, thanks to people like you, is not in any jeopardy at the present moment, but the political situation can change on a dime, it seems. And you are correct with your observation that this could not happen in today's world to the Catholic Church, per se. There would be people in the streets around the world that would not fly, but for whatever reason, infractions on the FNAR sometimes go unanswered. And certainly we, as you mentioned before, as a possible solution is a team of individuals who have such standing that when they push back, that push is felt. So maybe, and bringing folks together from not just the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America. I only said that because we're both in America, but around the world, we need to do a better job, it seems, of coming together amongst ourselves and then branching out rather than overloading to try to do everything at once, because sometimes nothing gets done if you try that approach. But Mr. Marcus, is there something in the works coming up after this generous gift? Is there something that you're working on? Maybe not necessarily with the FUNAR, but with maybe the Metropolis of San Francisco or anything of that sort that you would like to share? Or
there's really no organized thing that I'm thinking of, but I am available, and I would be very interested in pursuing what you asked me to think about, and that is, what can we do? Can we do an IOCC? I helped put together the IOCC. Now, most people are not aware that it's all Orthodox. It's not Greek Orthodox. It just so happens that there's more Greek Orthodox than there are other Orthodoxes. So we basically contribute a lot of money. The actual dean, the person that runs it, trying to feel it was a wonderful human being. He's spent his whole entire life helping people around the world from crises, whether it's fires or whether it's floods or they're really suffering. They're everywhere. They're all over Europe. They're all over South America. They're even in America, believe it or not, IOCC. So with something like that, if you take that and make that a religious focused organization with the group of all or Orthodox, and make people feel comfortable and they're together. So there's no difference between the Ukrainian, and the Greek Orthodox or something. Or, I'm not gonna talk about the Russian now. I guess there's a little thing going on there. So that's a different story. Yeah. So we'll pass that.
So we've heard. Yes. Mr. Marcus, thank you so much for your time. you're generous with your time as well. It goes to be said. Thank you for your support of our publications, of the church through the years, of the church through the years, of the community at large. We are all very, very grateful. Congratulations on this wonderful gift that His Holiness Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew himself said is just magnificent, and it is really God's work on earth. So congratulations, sir. And to all of our readers and listeners of this video interview, I do urge you to go check out IOCC. It is a wonderful organization. And as Mr. Marcus said, it's led by some pretty wonderful people who have dedicated their lives to being there when folks think they don't have anywhere else to go. And that's where our faith should be. It should be that beacon of hope. And thanks to people like Mr. Marcus, it's if it wasn't already, it is closer to being that. So thank you again, sir.
And let me thank your family for doing a marvelous job communicating through your wonderful newspaper to all of us. So thank you, and keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Marcus. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You too as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.